You're listening to the Live Out Loud podcast with River Wynn and Michelle Flamer.
Hi, River.
Hi, Michelle.
Pre-chat is just too good.
Pre-chat is the best.
So I was trying to put in like what maybe this title could be because I really give us credit because there are sometimes some podcasts, and there won't be any names, that it is a real challenge I get excited to read the title of what they're going to talk about, and they literally talk about it in the last two sentences of the entire 30, 45 minutes.
Yeah, I've definitely listened to some episodes where the title was very misleading, and I was excited about the content after reading the title, and then, get to the end of the episode, I was like, eh.
Oh, it was such a downer. So I put in what we were kind of going to talk about to good old Chatty. And of course, Chatty puts it into three categories. I didn't even ask for the categories. Chatty's just getting bold up in here. And so it was reflective and raw, and it was smiling through the ache. Where the past meets the bleachers. 3 chairs and a funeral for the dream. Oh my Lord. And then poetic and emotional. I mean, and usually Chatty is really spot on with me.
Today, not today.
I think Chatty's having an off day. I think Chatty might have been to Vegas last night.
Oh, Chatty's hung over today.
Oh my God. Yeah, Chatty is hung over. Poetic and emotional. The sidelines of my old life, holding space between what was and what is. When the heart sees, this one, what the eyes can't unsee. And then the direct and bold, I think we started really laughing. Co-parenting pain in public spaces. I was not expecting that. Post-divorce plot twist at the PTA. It's like, what are you like? Is there nothing going on in the closet?
Bad.
And then the last one, which is I think this is our true favorite. It's not just a kids event until it isn't.
Oh, that just really sounds like such like a bad porn title. Oh my God, let's be
real. It really does.
Like, oh, it's so bad. Oh my God.
Oh my.
Oh, Chatty, go home. You're drunk, Chatty.
I know. My poor Chatty is just, Chatty's a little burnt. I've been using him a lot lately. So funny.
Needless to say, we won't be using any of those titles.
No, we won't, but we will make a funny post out of it. So that's good.
We will.
So what's happening in your world is leading us into what we're kind of talking about today.
Yeah. So when you get divorced and you have kids, you know that at some point in time, there's going to be a new partner in the mix with the co-parenting and family events and sporting events and life events. And it's one thing to know that and think about what that might look like and how that might feel, and think maybe you're prepared for that and you could handle it. But it's a whole new ball game, pun not actually intended, when you go to your child's sporting events and it happens for the first time.
So it's where the past meets the bleachers.
Oh my God.
Just kidding. I won't throw these in every
Technically,
time.
it would be where the past meets the goalposts.
Yeah.
Because of a soccer.
Exactly. Because it's soccer. Yeah.
Yeah. So that happened to me today for the first time. My children's father brought the person that is, I'm not certain if it's their new partner or not, because he's very vague about it, but my children have stated that she is his partner, to my son's soccer games and my daughter's music performance this morning. So two soccer games and a music performance. So like 3.5-ish hours of having to be in the same social space as my ex-husband, my children, all of his family, like two sets of parents, and his new partner.
I mean, that's a lot, honestly, on one day within, before noon. It's like, that's a lot.
And it's Mother's Day weekend.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, mentally, if you had asked me a week ago to imagine myself in that scenario, I probably would have told you, oh, I'll be fine. I can handle it. But I was not prepared for the gamut of emotions that hit me.
Yeah.
It was, it started out as kind of like annoyance because I didn't know that this person was going to be there. There was like no heads up, no anything like that. So annoyance at first of like, what is happening? It's Mother's Day weekend. This feels kind of like overstepping a little bit. Feeling all of that, having that thought in my mind, and then laughter. Like I kind of like felt like there was a humor in the situation because I realized that we actually had same hairstyles, we were wearing the same colors, our outfits were very similar, and
I
I
know.
was like,
I texted
oh,
him, I'll sing a white female time.
like it, like the you didn't branch out much. Um,
Yep.
so kind of like the humor of that situation, and then just really evolved into feeling grief in layers and feeling rage and sadness, just so many big emotions over the course of that time. Um, and of course, also, it's not my parenting time with the children. So basically, essentially being there solo, because I don't
Hmm.
have family who was there with me. I didn't have any friends who were intentionally there with me, came to see my kids play. I definitely saw people I knew and other parents of the soccer team that I sat and chatted with, but I was definitely there solo, not on my own parenting time, which is already such a strange. I don't know if you experienced this, but like when you go to an event and it's not your legal parenting time, it's kind of a weird dynamic where it's like you are the parent of these children, but you almost, at least I feel like I don't have a right to like tell them what to do
Right.
or
Right.
intervene or like
Because
I don't feel like I have a
it's
right to
not your
parent.
week. It's
Yeah,
not your
I don't feel like
time.
I get to be parent in that moment, which is so strange because when you have your kids, you never imagine yourself being in that position of feeling like you don't get to actually be a parent,
You don't
even
have
when
a
you're around
say
your
in that. You
children.
don't have a say in that moment, like there's no fire, there's no emergency. So there's like
Yeah.
it's just their time, and of course you just want to be there for your kid, but it's not your
But
day
there's a
of the
divide.
week.
There's a divide. It's
Yeah,
definitely
there is.
awkward. There's a divide to it. Even I think in some of the most ideal situations, that can be a kind of a hard feeling already to navigate, especially if you're new into co-parenting and split parenting time. But then, you add in that extra layer of now there's this other adult who is interacting with your children in a way that is similar to parenting.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of emotions that comes from that.
Oh,
And
for
I
sure.
was not prepared in the way that I actually had thought I would be. So it was just
I will say
a lot.
I'm very lucky, but I remember when my ex brought her boyfriend, her past boyfriend, um, the first time to one of Caden's events, and for the first time I really felt the aloneness in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
Not just having someone like in my corner next to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like if my stepmom was there, it's totally fine. Totally.
Yeah.
But you
Yes.
really do. But then when she broke up with him, and we've been doing all this, she's been solo for like 6 months or something like that. But a totally different feeling. Like the first time we
Mm-hmm.
both showed up, like, hey, do you want to drive together? Or I said, I'm just going to drive my Vespa or whatever because this is where I'm coming from. And it felt totally normal. Like it was,
Mm.
because it's just the two of us again. Because the unit part of it, we were always really good at.
Mm-hmm.
So that's so I think when you add this new
Yeah.
person in the
It's
mix, it feels really different.
it's really different. And it's a reminder too, because I know part of our morning was my daughter was performing her class from school was performing a couple of songs and a dance at the opening of our farmers market. And
Yeah.
our farmers market covers one block in our small downtown.
Yeah, totally.
And like the town square and a block in front of the library. So it's like,
Yeah, where
it's a
mine's like
small
9
space.
rows.
Right. This is like a small space,
Totally.
And so it's weird. So I pulled up and I parked and I see them walking around together. And it's like, they look like this cute little family.
Oh,
And it's
yeah.
a reminder of like that used to be my cute little family
That's
doing the
right.
farmers market together on the weekend. And now I'm the mother who doesn't get to walk around the farmers market with my daughter because he's also very territorial of his parenting time, and he
I
doesn't
know.
want my kids to come like sit with me or walk with me or be with me even if we're in the same social space.
Yeah.
He gets really weird about it. And so it was just surreal to like watch them walk around the farmers market while I'm there, and I'm like, those are my children. Like these are my human beings that I birthed from my body.
I mean, it makes so much sense if you started the morning off in that space, then on top of it, all the little like annoyances at the game. And then I don't think you had any micro annoyances at the choir event. Or at that point, you might have just been like, I'm just like, fuck this. I'm just going to focus and be out of here.
Yeah, because the reality is like between the soccer games, because we had two soccer games back to back and then another drive over to the farmers market, it was like in between the soccer games, like I called you and I was venting because I was angry, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like this woman shows up and she's taking pictures of my son and yelling to him during the game, turn around and take it, so I can take a picture, and like taking videos of him and brushing and braiding my daughter's hair, and she brought a big box of donuts for the kids, and it's like that's my thing with my kids. Me and the kids do the donut thing, like that's our thing. And so it's just like seeing this person interacting with my children as though she were a parent, and then the added factor of like, oh, it's Mother's Day weekend.
Mhm.
And I don't get my children for Mother's Day this year. I'll see them for a couple of hours in the evening, but I don't have Mother's Day with my children this year. And that it felt in that moment like how rude of their dad to make this weekend the first weekend the new partners coming to the soccer games and the events on Mother's Day weekend. How rude for them to walk around acting like a little family unit when I'm there. It all felt like such a slap in the face. So it was anger at him, and I'm not angry at her because she thinks that she's dating this great guy who has these great kids, and she's kind to them and she likes them and they like her, and
I mean,
there's that.
that's what you want.
That's what I want, right? There's that added factor of like the guilt of feeling all these other emotions while also feeling grateful that the person in their life is a good person and they
But
like
I'll tell
her.
you, if it was just the farmer's market and then you were leaving and nothing else happened during, you wouldn't even like, you had to have all this happen so it could hit you in the face and
It was, like I said, it was just like the full spectrum of all the emotions, from
yeah,
laughter to rage to wanting to walk across the soccer field and rip her phone out of her hand and throw it and be like, stop
yeah,
taking pictures of my son. Like, like
yeah.
so many emotions.
Like,
And
okay,
then
enough. Right.
adding in the layer of like the ex-in-laws being in there, and my ex-in-laws don't speak to me except for one of them. And I have to go out of my way to approach them. And it being a small town and seeing so many people we know, and it's a lot. It hit my emotions in a deep way. And so then having to call you and vent in between the games and calling one of
Yeah.
my other friends and just having those affirmations from the two of you of like, hey, it is okay that you feel all of this. It is
Yeah.
okay. Like, do not shame yourself for this. Like,
Well,
it's
this is the first time
okay.
you've had this big feeling come up
This is
because
the first time that either of us has had a partner that is so fully involved with our kids. It's the first time. It's new. And the way that he's handling it has not been well done.
right.
It's not how I would handle things. And unfortunately, you know, I don't have a say in that. And I don't have a say in
That's
who's a
right.
part of my children's life. And so it's, again, one of those moments of having to feel the feels and then surrendering to what I cannot control,
Yeah. It's a
which
big one.
as a mother is hard because you you don't birth children with the expectation that you're not going to be the biggest person in their life 24/7.
I mean, I remember Carrie and I had a separation like in 2018. It was like a 3 to 5 month separation with rules around it and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But beyond all that, I remember that first Friday when I dropped Caden off at school. I had not cried that hard in like a really long time. I really was mourning, knowing that Saturday morning, our little sweet Saturday morning where I'll make pancakes or do stuff like that, I was realizing like, oh God, I am not going to wake up to my child.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt really blessed that I had Cooper at that point. So that must have been 2019. But because I had something to take care of, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But still I was like, I did not become a mother to be a part-time mother.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. That's exactly it. And
Especially
it's,
because the morning is like our thing because I'm up
yeah.
early.
And I think too, especially when it's like you also didn't go into partnership with the goal of getting divorced.
Of course not.
And
Right.
so it's like there's a grieving of like,
Hmm.
in a sense, yes, when you choose to get divorced and you have kids, yes, you're choosing to be away from your children, but like the intention was to not be in a partnership, not to lose more time with your children. It is the fallout of the choice of leaving a marriage. And it sucks. And the
Hmm.
reminders of that really suck. Especially when you're not prepared for it to happen. Like I didn't wake up this morning expecting to go to my son's soccer game and feel all of this.
Of course not. So what, how can you counteract that? Like those feelings, other than sitting and I mean, you know that it's just going to be a wave.
Yeah, and for me it's very much because of the kind of person I am, where I perceive that all experiences are an opportunity to alchemize into growth and healing.
Hmm. Yep, beautifully
Um,
said.
I look at it as, okay, I knew, I knew when I got divorced that this day was going to come.
Yeah.
This day arrived. I got hit with all the emotions. I went through it. I'm still good on the other side of it. Like I'm still grounded. Like
Yeah.
even though there was that rage in me that wanted to go over and rip her phone out of her hand because I'm a Taurus mama,
Yeah.
that's not something I would actually do
No.
in real life, you know? And so it was the ability to sit with the emotions in the moment and like let them come out, let them be felt, let them be heard, with my safe people. And then also like having safe people in that space that I could gravitate towards. And, I had another parent who, when she arrived, I was like, I'm so glad you're here. And she's like, yeah. And she came and sat with me and she's like, I can see what's happening. and,
Oh, I love that.
and she was like, I'm here for you. And we sat and chatted the whole time. And at the choir or the music event too, same thing happened. Like one of the parents of one of my preschoolers came up with her little kids and she was like, hey, can we sit with you? And like it was
Oh,
just, you know,
I'm so
even
glad
in
the
the
second
midst of
game was better.
that, yeah, even in the midst of all of that, I was still able to like be with people who were my people
Yeah.
unexpectedly. And it just kept me so grounded and it made me feel so seen and took me
And
back to
then,
that space within where I was like, okay, I can sit and observe the emotions. I can sit and
yeah.
observe the emotions. I can feel them. I can observe them, but this is not going to like spiral me for the rest of the day. Like, yes, we're talking about it on the podcast because I think it's important to talk about these kinds of situations for anybody who's getting divorced or like has kids and is like co-parenting. But like, I'm not personally, internally, emotionally wallowing it. My perspective is very much like, okay, the day came, it happened. I felt the feelings. I'm going to push through it. And what I'm taking away from it is that I have to surrender to what I can't control. But what I can control is how I show up for my children when I have a new partner.
Exactly. And the other thing that someone won't, that the podcast won't know is that she came home after all of this and created through love pies for the family, for your brother.
Yeah.
I
It was
mean, that's a
my little brother's
beautiful,
birthday, and
yeah,
yeah.
you didn't let this ruin the rest of your day.
No, not at all. It's not going to ruin my day at
It
all,
just you
like
sat, like you said, it's alchemizing you, and
it's alchemizing it, and
it's a
it's
chance to like just look within and
mm-hmm.
and start thinking about what it will feel like when you have your significant other.
Well, and it's, it's teaching me a lot too as a parent in the sense of like, you know, being grounded in myself, even in the face of my own emotions, like being secure within myself. Um, that there was a moment this morning where there's kind of this ongoing scenario where the person that my kid's other parent is dating keeps telling my children that they want to spend time with me, like they want me to go to coffee with them. And I will say this person's not approaching me and having this conversation or saying this to me. They're telling my children this. And then my children are, or my daughter specifically, is wanting me to befriend this person. And so there's this kind of ongoing dynamic happening where I'm having to set a very firm boundary
Hmm.
ar- around that for myself. And it's making my daughter very upset because my boundary is that I will be friendly with this person. I've met this person already. Like this person already came to one of their drop offs. Again, unexpected. I was kind of confronted with that. But I've been friendly and kind, and I'm not an unkind person in person. That's not who I am. But I'm also not going out of my way to befriend this person because that's a boundary for me. It's not,
But the other part of it, let's the reality of it, because I think about this sometimes, is like he didn't give you the respect and courtesy to acknowledge who maybe this person is in your life and say,
yeah.
this matters. I'd like all the three of us to have coffee. Would you be open to that? I want to introduce you guys before she sort of starts to meet the kids. He never gave you that
There's been
respect.
absolutely no respect involved in any way because the reality is that I had heard about this person long before I met her. And then one day, a couple months ago, my kids got dropped off and I opened my front door and she is standing on my front porch with my
Yeah.
children.
I mean, and that's,
Uninvited,
yep.
unannounced. There was no heads up. And I was so shocked because up until this point, my children had said, oh, like dad's friend, they're not dating, but then also telling me that this person is like staying at their house and sleeping in dad's bed and like is there every weekend and they're like doing trips together and she's hanging out with his family and like all the
Very
things that
enmeshed.
you're like, that sounds like someone you're dating.
Right.
So then to open my door and this person is standing there, I was so shocked because our part of our parenting agreement, we have a clause in our parenting plan is that new partners are not allowed to be solo with our children, like drive them, take them to things, go shopping, anything like that. One-on-one time with the kids, babysit them until the other parent has met them. And so
Imagine
in
that.
my mind, opening the door and this woman that my children have been talking about standing on my porch, in my mind, I'm like, I'm being introduced to a partner so that she can spend time with my children one-on-one.
Yeah.
And so then when I then addressed it with him, I was told, no, this is just a friend. We're not dating. And so it's been a really weird situation where, that's what I'm hearing from him, but then she's telling my children that she's his girlfriend. They're telling me she's his girlfriend. It's just really there's like a lot of disrespect, it feels like in there. And so it
Yeah.
felt today, it felt disrespectful for this person to come and be there on Mother's Day weekend at my children's games. But my point with this is I don't have any control over the way that he shows up within his
Yeah.
relationship and how he approaches his dating life with our children
Yeah.
and how he approaches me about it. Um, all I can do is look at that, feel the feels, and then decide how I want to show up when it's my turn in that same scenario.
For sure.
And I'm not the person who's going to show up on his front doorstep with a new partner unannounced and
No,
uninvited.
you're going to
You
do it.
know?
You're going to do it the way that shows respect
Yeah.
regardless. You're not
Yeah.
stooping.
Yep. Yeah. And
You're not tit for tatting here.
exactly. And I am a very fully transparent person. And in the past, when I did date someone that I thought was going to be, it was going to be something more, I did, have a conversation with him of, hey, heads up, I am dating someone. I think it's going to become a more serious, long-term thing. Um, he's going to meet the kids. I just want to let you know. And I had that transparency and directness and that person ultimately did meet my children one time. And we did not continue dating long term. But that's how I handled it
Hmm.
because I feel like having felt all these emotions now, like back then when I was letting him know about the person I was dating, I was putting myself in his shoes and I was thinking about what it might feel like as a father to know that your children are spending time with another man who might become a part of their life in a bigger way. And what would it feel like to know that? And what would be the kindest way to tell somebody and the most straightforward way without beating around the bush? And also give them that courtesy of knowing so they can have time to like sift through the feelings of it.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the biggest distinction here for me is like, I am the person who's going to consider those things, but I cannot change the fact that he is not the kind of person who's going to consider those things.
That's correct. You just got to let him.
Just let him. You got to let him.
Let
And
him.
I'm the one who has to deal with it. He doesn't
Hmm.
have to deal with my emotions. I'm never going to talk with him about this. Like it's not
I
a
mean,
conversation we're going to have,
it's just like when everybody else is talking about our political state of the world right now and who's there, it's like we have no control over what is going on. We only have control over our response.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think really it's just, you can prepare in your mind for the things that you think you're going to experience. But until you actually get to those moments, you have no idea how you're actually going to feel and what's
Hmm.
actually going to happen. And so just taking that knowledge and that feeling today and like looking at it through the lens of the rest of my life, like, okay, I feel like I'm prepared and ready to have like a real relationship and to
Yeah.
date.
Yeah.
But then that recognition of like, okay, I feel like I'm ready. I feel like I have the tools, but things are going to come up when that happens that I am not going to know how I'm going to feel or I'm going to handle it until that moment comes.
Hmm.
And just
No,
knowing that ahead of
you
time.
don't know. I mean, you don't know until it's literally in front of you.
Exactly. So, yeah, and all of that to say, I think it's just after you get divorced, there's just going to be so many unknown factors. I think even in the most ideal of scenarios, you don't know what you're going to have to navigate until you get there. And
Yeah,
so giving yourself grace and not shaming yourself for the feelings that you do have.
that's so true.
Yeah.
Cooper just came up and I wanted to say hi to him.
Hi, Cooper.
He's a good boy.
He's such a good boy.
He's about 30 minutes early for food.
Aw.
But he's trying by giving me the best puppy eyes ever. Sorry, dude. And you're shedding. He's gonna get his summer cut sooner than later. He's gonna
Looking
be so
sharp.
handsome. Um, I was thinking about how you handled today as opposed to like thinking if this happened a year ago or, even 6 months ago. I just feel like it's really cool watching what now knowing that you encountered them at the farmer's market and that thought process and then the lemon squeezed for the other. I was like, wow. And I was glad that you were angry and I'm glad you were able to get out some of those feelings and in our pre-chat you were able to say even a bit more, which is great. It's really wonderful to see the growth in you.
Mm-hmm.
and the acknowledgement of you didn't need to give, you didn't make excuses for anybody. You were
Mm-mm.
just like, this is what it is, and this is how it feels.
Mm-hmm.
And and I just hope that the Pod Squad, when they're listening to this, the thing that always I will go back to is that when you encounter an uncomfortable feeling, when it hits, because we also know what good feelings feel like, right? So when it's something that isn't a good feeling, whether it shows up tummy ache, whether it shows up as a headache, really knowing your body and how things feel and where it's coming up from, it's like being aware of yourself in that space and then saying, wow, this fucking sucks, and processing and sitting in it will take you less to move through it than
No,
going down a rabbit hole.
yeah, being so connected to yourself and your sense of self-worth and your sense of groundedness that even in the face of your own emotions that you're still good and you've got yourself is
Yeah.
huge. And going back to, because I just remembered the thing I was saying and we kind of side quested for a second, but I was talking about boundaries, like boundaries around becoming friends with this person. And I wanted to touch on that because there's kind of this narrative and rhetoric that people encounter, at least I've encountered after getting divorced, that tells mothers, especially, I think mothers especially, maybe men too, I don't know, but I feel like as a mother, I've heard it way more, is that you should be friends with your ex or their new partner so that everything's good for the kids. And I want to say that coming out of divorce, like we talked about this before in the podcast, like my highest vision after divorce for co-parenting was that we could be friends and that
Yeah.
we could have new partners come into this dynamic. We could all gather for the kids and put the kids first and like do family functions together and all that stuff. Like still like essentially be a family, you know? Um, and that's not my reality.
Yeah.
And I tried to make that happen for a while. And I got to the point where I realized it wasn't safe for me emotionally and I needed to have boundaries around that. And so I've stepped back and I've put boundaries in place. And so now, you know, it's causing a dynamic for my daughter where she's mad at me. She's upset with me that I am not wanting to spend time one on one and get to know this person in her dad's life. Um, and a year ago, I would have felt so much pressure within that to make my daughter feel better,
To please her,
to please
to be,
her
yeah,
by abandoning my own boundary.
that's right.
And I am holding fast with that.
Oh,
And
by
it's
shrinking yourself?
by shrinking myself. And the reality is that for me, in this
Yeah.
particular co-parenting situation, it is not emotionally safe for me to become friends with a person who is dating basically someone who emotionally abused me for 8 years.
Yeah.
It's not safe for me.
Yeah.
And it's not safe for me to open up my life in any way for him to know more about my life. So it's not healthy or safe for me to have a friendship with this person. Now, of course, I cannot explain all of that in depth to my child because it wouldn't be appropriate for her because there's
Right.
details within that that she doesn't need to know.
Nope.
So I'm having to sit with this uncomfortableness of knowing that my child is displeased with me because of my boundary holding for myself.
Right. And I was reminding you that she's only 9
Yeah.
and that she is totally obsessed with you, one, but that as she gets older, she'll see her own truths.
Yes.
And
Yes.
she'll realize that you didn't say anything negative.
Exactly.
And so I think
Exactly.
that's going to be really important because,
Yeah.
I want Carrie happy always. I want my
Yes.
ex to be happy, live a beautiful, gorgeous, full life, truly, because that benefits it's a ripple effect. It benefits
Yes.
everybody.
Yeah. And the reason I wanted to share that was because I think that we do people a disservice by telling them that you need to be friends with your ex and his partner or her
Yeah.
partner, whoever it may
No,
be,
you get to do
for the
whatever you need
kids.
to do.
And I want to say that I think that's a beautiful vision, but it takes the right kind of people for that to happen.
It does. They need to be
Yeah.
at a healed place and
Yeah.
in a space where they've done a little bit of work.
Yeah.
You know, that just isn't happening on that end.
Yeah. And so like if you're co-parenting with someone who can't even have a text conversation with you about your children's needs without swearing at you and calling you names, it's not safe for you to have that kind of co-parenting relationship with that person.
Because that
So
would
like you
mean,
have to put your mental well-being over your children's discomfort around those relationships.
well, yeah, because that means you would have to risk with vulnerability again.
Yeah.
And you already know by the actions of one person that that is just unfortunately impossible.
Yeah.
Right.
So I just want to tell like anybody who's listening who's maybe going
Yeah.
through a divorce, like if people are telling you that you need to be friends with your ex for the kids, like no, you don't have to.
No.
Like be friendly,
Yes.
be
Don't
friendly, be
don't talk
civil, be
smack.
friendly. Don't talk about the other parent in front of your kids negatively, like support their relationship, but like
Yeah.
you do not have to be friends. You do not have to do Christmas together. You don't even have to sit next to each other at soccer
That's right.
games. Like
That is right.
you can have those boundaries and like you don't have to expect the other person to follow your boundaries. You don't even need to tell them your boundaries. Your boundaries are for you.
Yep. Agreed. Well, this was a good episode.
Yeah. Unexpected, but good.
When the heart sees what the eyes can't unsee.
It's
It's just a kids event until it isn't.
Till it
Oh God.
isn't.
Bye all.
Bye.
Love you.
Love you too.
If you enjoyed this episode today, be sure to subscribe and share because what do we say, baby?
Sharing is caring.